Hello and welcome to How to Play Skip-Bo, presented by GatherTogetherGames.com. This video will cover how to play the card game Skip-Bo. The video will start with the general concepts and gameplay, and then get into more of the details for the game. The game is played with 2 to 6 players. Each player is dealt 30 cards when playing with 2 to 4 players, 20 cards each if playing with 5 or 6 players. The remaining cards are placed in the middle as a draw pile. The cards dealt to each player remain face down in a pile known as the stock. The top card of each player's stock pile is flipped up. The object of the game is to be the first player to play all the cards in his stock pile. Cards from the stock pile can be played onto the middle building piles. There can be up to 4 building piles in the middle that are started with a 1 and are built up to a 12. The deck contains Skip-Bo cards that are wild and can be used as any number. The player left of the dealer is first to play. Each player's first turn begins by drawing 5 cards from the draw pile. The player can start a building pile in the middle with a 1 or a Skip-Bo card. Player 2 starts a building pile with the 1 from his stock pile. Player 2 flips up his next stockpile card and plays a 2 from his hand onto the 1. Each player's turn ends with a discard. Player 2 will discard a 12. Each player has his own discard piles and can have up to 4 total discard piles made in a row with his stockpile. Play moves to player 3, who will start his turn by drawing 5 cards. Player 3 is able to play a 3 into the middle and ends his turn by discarding a 10. Player 1 draws 5 cards to start his turn. Player 1 is able to play the 4 from his stockpile. He is then able to play all the cards from his hand into the middle, using the Skip-Bo card as a 2. When a player is able to use all the cards drawn, another 5 cards are drawn and that player continues play. Although player 1 could play the Skip-Bo card here, he chooses to discard the 11 to end his turn. Play moves back to player 2. Going forward, players' turns will begin by drawing enough cards to return their hand to 5 cards. Player 2 will draw 2 cards to return his hand to 5 cards. A player may choose not to play a card even though he could. Player 2 chooses to discard his 10 to end his turn without playing into the middle. Play continues clockwise with players beginning their turn by drawing cards, then playing any cards they would like from their stockpile, hand, or discard piles, then finishing their turn with a discard. Skipping ahead, player 1 draws 4 cards to return his hand to 5 cards. He can build his 5 and 6 into the middle and flips his next stock card up. The Skip-Bo card can be played anywhere and player 1 chooses to play it as a 2. Player 1's last stock card is a 10 and he is able to play a 7 and 8 from his discard piles, a 9 from his hand, and lastly the 10 to finish his stockpile, which ends the game. Players can have up to 4 discard piles. Any number of cards can be stacked in a discard pile. It does not matter the number or color, but a player can only play the top card of a discard pile. Any cards buried in a discard pile cannot be played until the discard on top of them is played. Once a building pile reaches 12, the pile is removed and a new building pile can be started with a 1 in its place. If the draw pile runs out, reshuffle all the completed building piles to form a new draw pile. The player that gets rid of his stockpile first is the winner. If you want to play multiple rounds, you can keep score by awarding the first player to get rid of his stockpile 25 points plus 5 points for each card left in the other player's stockpiles. When keeping score, the first player to 500 points wins. That wraps up How to Play Skip-Bo. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and get more game tutorials by subscribing to our channel, Gather Together Games. Thanks for watching.